Hello, this is Stephanie Giacchino, and welcome to a podcast on Marzano's instructional model with the focus on design question 1. The learning goals that we would like you to leave with after this podcast are listed. As you can tell, we are going to just focus on design question 1. Design question 1 states, what will I do to establish and communicate learning goals, track student progress, and celebrate success? This is one of 2 design questions in lesson segments that involve routine events. These are the questions and strategies that might be observed in every lesson. The other design question in lesson segments involving routine events is number 6. What will I do to establish and maintain classroom rules and procedures? This will be studied in the next podcast. There are 3 strategies under design question 1. Provide clear learning goals and scales, tracking student progress, and recognizing student success. As you will find in the podcast, you really cannot have one without the other. It's very important that we always start with providing clear learning goals and scales. So then we have to ask ourselves, what does that mean? It's very important that we make a distinction between learning goals and learning activities or assignments. A learning goal will identify what students will learn or be able to do as a result of the instruction, separate from what they will be able to do to demonstrate the learning. The learning activities and assignments will help students reach the learning goals. Here's another way to look at the difference between a learning goal and the activities that support the work of the goal. Here's an example from science. Notice the difference between the learning goal, the activity, the assignment. In addition to providing clear learning goals, scales are included in the first strategy. Scales are things like rubrics, which assign a simple number to a behavior. Checklists, which include a set of student behaviors that need to be completed for a certain grade. And also students' personal learning goals that the student establishes for their personal level of understanding or learning. You will have an opportunity to discuss with your mentor-mentee at the end of this podcast. If goals provide clear targets for learning, then feedback will facilitate the process of reaching those targets. Very important to have good feedback. The second piece to design question 1 is tracking progress. Again, all 3 action steps are connected. We need to make sure that we talk about tracking progress in connection with the goal and the scale. Teachers need to define concrete, measurable objectives and encourage students to personalize them. Feedback should be timely and refer to specific levels of performance. For tracking student progress, it is important to think of formative assessment. We know there are several types of assessment: diagnostic, formative, benchmark, summative. It may be important for you to have a conversation with your mentor or mentee about the different types of assessment. But again, we want to focus on the formative assessment. That takes place during a learning activity to provide the instructor with information regarding how well the learning objective on a given learning activity is being met. It also provides information for the student on where they are according to their learning goal. Most instructors intuitively use questions as a method of formative assessment, but in large lecture classes, not every student can be questioned because of time constraints. You must look at other ways to do your formative assessment. Here's an example of how a student might set their own goals. Scales not only help teachers track progress, but they can help students take a locus of control of their own learning. We're now going to look at a clean room scale and think about how this applies. Notice the difference in the 4, 3, 2, and 1 is something as simple as cleaning a child's room. It's important to think about how this then could be applied to your academic learning goals in the classroom. This is a generic scale in which teachers can build in their own content. Level 3 represents proficiency. You should start any scale by determining what meets the expectation. You then decide what should be a little bit more than expected. That would be your higher score, a 4 on this. And then determine what's a little less than expected, and those would be your lower scale scores. Here's an example from a science unit on the solar system. You can make a correlation between this and a traditional grading scale ranging from A to F with the plus-minus grades in between. You can also use half-point scales to help add more specificity. This is an example of a scoring guide or point system. This is not a rubric or scale. Scales show students what they need to do to get to the next level. They put students in a position of control of their learning. A scoring guide or point system simply shows the points possible with no reference to levels and what will help you to attain all the possible points, or vice versa, lose points. Now let's look at the third action step, recognizing student success. It's important for us to think about the messages that we get to know that we have done something well. How do we let students know that they have done something well? It's important for us to think about the connection between the goals, the feedback, and then the celebration. These are interdependent and all are needed in order to celebrate success. This circle helps us to see the relationship between the 3 parts of design question 1: learning goals and scales, tracking the progress, and celebrating success. It's important to know where you're going as a student and as a teacher. You need to know that you're truly getting there, and then truly celebrate the progress that's being made. In reviewing the goals, I hope this podcast and the discussion activities provided will help you develop a deeper understanding of design question 1. You are also encouraged to make sure and look at the Art and Science of Teaching to get more information. Thank you.